I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mr. DeCarlo?
Stall. Here?
Mr. Hopkins is excused. Mr. Condit?
Here.
Mr. Molina?
Here.
Mr. Schwarzman?
Here.
Mr. Wiggins?
Here. Approval of meeting minutes from February 23rd.
Move to approve.
Second. Roll call on approval of minutes.
Mr. Condit?
Yes.
Mr. Molina?
Yes.
Mr. Schwarzman?
Yes.
Mr. Wiggins?
Abstain.
Mr. DeCarlo?
Yes. And do we have any amendments to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. President, one, I'd like to add an executive session after legislation to discuss personnel.
Need a second?
Second. Sorry.
Roll call?
Mr. Molina?
Yes.
Mr. Schwarzman?
Yes.
Mr. Wiggins?
Yes.
Mr. DeCarlo?
Yes.
Mr. Condit?
Yes. Okay, we're going to committee reports. Mayor is not here and I do not have a report for him. Mr. Carpenter?
I have nothing new tonight.
Okay. Karen?
I did not put a report on the box. The only thing I have to cover is an issue on Liberty Ledges. On the February 26th, we had a pre-con meeting for Liberty Ledges to discuss the tree clearing. The issue was that in order to take down the trees for this season, they had to be down by March 11th, which is this Friday. So we had the meeting on the 26th. It was a group, we met with Some Soil and Water Engineering, Some Soil and Water, both walked the clearing limits. They met all of the specifications, so they were given the approval to move forward with the tree clearing. The stipulation was that they had to have all their erosion control and traps in place before they could turn the stumps. Dormant seeding was required, and of course the construction and silt fence was required. There have been quite a few calls over the last week due to the tree clearing. All of the trees that were cut down were on the developer's private property. The property lines were marked, and there was a 20-foot buffer zone in between the private property on Pirates Trail and the tree clearing. And this all was consistent with what we discussed in that pre-construction meeting. The developer also met with the homeowners association for Liberty Ledges, gave them the timeline on what was going on. The homeowners association agreed to communicate that to the residents in Liberty Ledges, and I believe we've only received 1 or 2 calls from Liberty Ledges residents, but the majority of the calls were from people on Pirates Trail.
And then they're not pulling any of the down trees out
Until
the issue with the construction road is
Correct.
resolved.
And that was the big holdup on the planning commission, was that there was not the construction entrance was not satisfactory. We wanted to make sure that we had everything in place for that before giving approval to actually move the trees out of there and then moving the heavy equipment in. So the only equipment that they were allowed to move in was the equipment to remove to cut the trees down.
And the trees will sit until, we get that construction road in, and we're still working with Twinsburg in the park to utilize that access road over by the well.
And right now, the debate right now is whether or not they're going to have the construction entrance in for phases 4, 6, and 7. Phase 4, the most logical entrance would be to use Liberty Ledges Drive. We still have the ability to have them take out a maintenance bond on Liberty Ledges Drive. And then that way any damage that they do to the street would be on that bond.
How many homes are in phase 4?
Phase 4 was only 22 or 23. Phases 6 and 7 were gonna be the bulk of the work. Okay.
Thanks, Steve. Hey, I have one thing, and I don't know if Gene or you have even noticed this, the sidewalks they put in, with all the rain we've been having, there's like 4 or 5 sections where it's
On
puddling.
Liberty Road?
Yeah.
Yes, I did notice that.
Are they, is Twinsburg gonna do anything about that, or?
I have not heard, but I plan to ask Gene,
Okay.
because I noticed that as well.
All right, thank you. Okay, Service Department, they are continuing with cleanup of the roads, picking up trash. Sam is getting quotes on replacing our welcome to the Reminderville signs. We need one up here at the entrance from Aurora, both ends on Liberty. The south end of Liberty, though, they're gonna wait on, depending on what happens with the construction road and where it's gonna end up being placed, because it's probably gonna have to go on to Twinsburg's land to get that in there. But discussion prior to the end of the year, Kathy had said that she would do an easement to allow that sign to go in, and I'm sure the new regime will not have a problem with that, with us getting that sign in. Something else Sam is working on, changing the signing at Heritage Hall and the police, and the service garage, so it kind of all matches what's in the village now with the same type sign. Having one out for Heritage Hall out by the road to mirror what's on the police sign. And then in our discussion, you know, that was our first fire station, correct? The old Heritage Hall? We parked the truck in there.
No, it was a second.
Is the first one gone?
No, but
Where's that?
it's on private property.
Okay,
It's on Connecticut Street.
all right.
And 1057 is been, I believe that's the address.
Yeah, you're so good. But maybe we wanna, with some kind of, something on the building showing the history behind that building, other than just having a sign that says Heritage Hall, having something identifying it as one of the first firehouses.
That'd be great.
And that's it. Okay, Rec Center, we had a construction meeting last week, Wednesday? Thank you. Once the heat's on in the old Snap Fitness portion, they're gonna start drywalling. They're also going to paint the existing ceiling in there black, which will help hide dust and dirt that would accumulate up in those rafters, because that's all an open building. As everyone has probably seen, the steel is now in for the gym section, and it's big, massive. They're moving along. Our schedule is still for the end of June, beginning of July.
Does that include the pool?
Yes. They're getting quotes or bids on painting the inside walls in the gym section. They did make the pool office smaller on the drawings to allow for pool equipment. Whatever they need for that. Sprinkler drawings is one holdback they're having right now, because that's something they could be working on in the old section. And did Bob have any news for us today?
We should have that ready to issue by the end of the week.
Okay, good, thank you. And that's it on the rec center.
Oh, Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
I have a question, maybe Deborah can address it. I've been getting multiple emails inquiring about badminton in the rec center, and I wanna make sure I understand. When this floor is put in, there's gonna be permanent lines for volleyball and basketball. Basketball just lives with the volleyball lines, the volleyball just lives with the basketball lines. And there's some kind of receptacle built into the floor for the nets for volleyball, because those are very substantial nets. Have you ever seen in other rec centers, if they do badminton, is that all portable equipment, like just
We have discussed that, because we've been getting calls for several years about that. There's a large population in Reminderville that loves badminton.
In Twinsburg.
And
They're
Twinsburg,
playing every
okay.
Saturday at
Okay.
Twinsburg Rec.
I have not seen badminton courts in a rec center, however, I've seen tennis court lines, basketball, volleyball, tennis court lines, so I'm sure it's possible to incorporate a badminton net. I don't know the square footage or anything, but we can
I
certainly.
would
do
imagine
that.
adding more lines would just create chaos on the floor.
They're portable though, Mark, also, the nets. It's not.
No, he's
Yeah,
talking about
that's
the
a
markings,
portable.
the line markings.
Well, both. I mean, they're standalone nuts, I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
and there is, floor tape that you can use, I don't know if you'd wanna put it down and take it up every week, but there are options to make it work if that really is gonna be a source of revenue and something that the residents wanna do. It's possible to do it.
So I could feel pretty safe telling these people that we will have badminton access event where we're considering it.
It's being, everything is, I would say it's being
Everything's on
discussed
it,
and,
right.
yeah, it's a definite possibility.
Yeah, it can be addressed at any time.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Yeah, it can always be added later too, it's not expensive equipment, it's not like you have to put a sleeve in the floor later, it's portable, so it could be added if it's not put in right away.
Okay, thank you very
As long
much.
as we got room for bocce ball too.
they'll do a code outside for that.
That's right. And horseshoes. There you go.
Deborah?
Soccer.
I have no report.
Do you want to say anything about the audit?
Oh, thank you. The last council meeting, I mentioned the date the audit was gonna start, it's actually moved back 2 weeks, so it'll start April 4th rather than at the end of March. I asked them to move it back a week because that's leading up to Easter and it's a shortened week. And they were not available the next week, so we compromised on April 4th.
Thank you. Chief Buck?
I have a couple things. I talked with Mr. Condick before the meeting, and Easter is going as planned. Everything's in order. We've elected not to get a tent. So in the event of bad weather, I will shoulder the blame for that, but it's $1,500 to $1,800 that I think we can get by without, because it is a pretty quick event. Secondly, I talked with Terry, and we are ready to go out for bid on the addition to the police department. We're gonna go out this week with that. Terry has drafted up the bid dates, the pre-bid construction meeting with the architect, and the final bid date. It's passed through our Rodix office, and the engineer is still looking at it, but we don't foresee any problems with that. Yes, sir?
I don't know if it came, or I forget if it came up at AVR, but how long of a process is this when you get the bids and construction gets started? What are they, how long are you
It's
talking?
about a month, it's about a month. We're gonna, what was, your bid, final bid date was April 14th, right?
Correct. It'll be
No, not the bid, I'm just, when construction starts.
construction.
Yeah,
Oh, well, April 14th, the bids are due, probably 30 days getting a contract together after that, and probably 120 days of construction.
gotcha.
So, whatever that equals out to. April, May, June, July, August, September, maybe a little sooner. They're gonna do it in phases so that the guys can continue operating in the building that we're in and the desk and nothing's disturbed, and we will only break through the walls after most of the construction in the other place has been done to eliminate dust and dirt and disturbing the guys so that we can still process people that we arrest and do our normal day-to-day operations. And lastly, I received today via email from John Evanston the contract for the purchase of the lots behind the police department that we first started to negotiate with about 4 years ago, and the council approved back then. I have the contract. Mark will forward that to Paul Carpenter tomorrow. Give him some time to look at it, but it's pretty straightforward. It's the same thing we discussed, same amount. Let him go through the language in the contract to make sure everything's the way it is, and then we'll proceed with that and transfer that so that we have those in hand before we start construction.
Well, do we need to do anything in this council? I mean, if we approve it?
Yeah, we don't have to approve it.
Again?
That's it.
That's it.
Thank you, Chief. Chief Plunkett.
Yes, just as a follow-up to the meeting that or the last meeting where the mayor brought in the individuals from 911 Cellular for their demo. The assistant chief and I have a meeting scheduled with them on Thursday to evaluate his proposal and then make some form of recommendation to council. And along those lines, I've come up with a list of questions that I would want to see answered prior to me throwing my weight behind it. And I wanted to ask council if they have any particular questions that they want to know or want answered. I know it's late between now and Thursday morning. If something pops into your head or you have one particular question you want answered, I'll ask him at the meeting. So you can either call me or email me or call Stacy and let her know. And then I'll try to get those questions answered so that at the next meeting we can give you guys some kind of recommendation, at least from my side of the fence.
What time is that?
10, it's at noon. I want to say noon. I want to say, hold on, let me check. I
Because
got two of that. We have
yeah,
one
we have the 9
at
o'clock.
9 o'clock,
Okay.
and then I believe it's noon.
While Chief is checking that, I'd like to add that I received an email from Neil, who was not the spokesperson, but the other gentleman that was here, saying that Ridgefield Council has signed a contract with them. So if anyone knows anyone on council at Ridgefield or the mayor, he mentioned Chief Morgan as well. I don't know if that's police or fire chief.
In Twinsburg?
No,
No,
Ridgefield.
Oh, I
Ridgefield.
don't know, yeah.
They might have some insight too, if you guys have a question.
So, Mr. Molina, the meeting with the homeowner that we have is at 9 AM on Thursday?
Correct.
And this meeting is at 10. So we're gonna have to be
Cut it
very
kind of short.
short-winded at the 9 o'clock meeting.
And that's, okay. Do you want to talk about that? meeting?
Yes, the mayor approached me and asked me if we were able to burn the building, the house down that, on the property that, the village bought on Georgia Street, directly north of the old village hall, behind that heritage building. And, so we have a meeting with, Mr. Molina and myself, the assistant fire chief, and the homeowner that lives directly to the north of that, the exposure, what we would call an exposure B, or the one to the left. And to get his take on things before we make up our mind about that. So that'll be Thursday at 9.
And what prompted all this, Jack Kirkhope is the owner of the house, his daughter lives in it. And he had emailed me about the condition of the house, when we were tearing it down, what was going on. So instead of doing the email thing, I just went over and sat down with them. And throughout the course of the conversation, he said to me, why don't you guys just burn it down? I says, we could, but according to Chief Plunkett, there's a lot of permitting and a lot of hoops you have to jump through to get that done. In the meantime, then, later that day, I'm talking to Tom, and he said something about, the mayor wants it burned down. I says, well, I think the owner might be in agreement for you to do it, because Tom needs to get him to sign off on it. So that's where we're at. We'll know more on Thursday.
But how far apart are the two houses?
Just rough guessing, I'm gonna say 30 feet.
You comfortable with that?
Yeah, answer that.
You don't have to. No liability.
Under certain circumstances, yes. We're going to, I had a discussion with Mr. Carpenter, and certainly before we made any moves in that direction, we would make sure that the homeowner, Mr. Kirkhope, is comfortable, and also that from a legal standpoint, he is signed off and has all the right paperwork that would satisfy the law department, and then we would move forward from there. But I also have to have another discussion with my assistant chief and some of my fire officers to make sure that everybody's thought process is in the same place as far as our capabilities and what we thought would potentially happen. So we're not gonna take any unnecessary risks or risks that we don't think we can handle.
Okay, thanks.
And the reason we're looking at this, because there's no grants out there right now to tear it down.
Is it in such condition that it needs to be taken care of and demolished right away?
My professional opinion.
I mean, my recommendation is you don't burn them down.
Is it?
And that would be my recommendation. And Tom and I talked about it, just to put it out there. I told him, you know, I would be voting against it. Hopefully we'll have a vote.
Did they make the, I mean, is it like a, do you try to make this a training type of exercise as well?
Absolutely, I mean, and we don't have enough manpower to do it on our own, so, we would have firefighters from Aurora, from Streetsboro, from Bainbridge, from Solon, from Twinsburg. It takes quite a number of individuals to do as many evolutions as it would take to safely burn it down. I mean, if it was wide open in the middle of nowhere, we would just light it and it would be over in 20 minutes, but obviously we can't do that in that tight of an occupied, with occupied exposures around. It has to be a very controlled burn, so it's very labor intensive to burn something down in its entirety and yet still not damage the surrounding neighborhood, so. Well, Mr. Molina and I will meet with the right people on Thursday. We'll come up with something.
That's what I thought.
Thank you, Chief. Architectural Board of Review. Mark.
Architectural Board of Review will be meeting Monday the 28th. There, I don't know if we have anything.
We have 2 plans in, but neither have been approved yet by Bob, so.
Well, still early, so we'll have a meeting on the 28th, 7 o'clock up here at Village Hall.
Thanks, Mark. Planning and Zoning, no report. Board of Zoning Appeals. We do have a
Yeah, there's a meeting
meeting
on
next
Monday.
Monday, okay. Finance,
Finance met today at 6:30. Today was our day to go through invoices, to recommend, we did recommend invoices in the amount of $721,162.15. Some of the highlights of that, 88,000 was jet distribution, 88,000 was the sidewalks on Liberty, and more than half of that, 721,000 was just a pass-through for pay app number 2 for the rec center. Our next meeting will be in 2 weeks at 6:30, in which we will do February's bank breaks. That's it.
thank you, Tom. Cable, we had our annual meeting on March 3rd. Budget was approved. Just 2 quick points. If anyone is experiencing their picture jumping in the middle of the program, it's an issue that's starting out in Columbus, and Time Warner's trying to correct that. And analog signals will be gone by the beginning of November. And that's it. Communication.
Communications met last Tuesday the 1st. Primary point of discussion is the village app that we're continuing to work with. Our app developer, we're trying to choose pictures for our main page, and getting some of the graphics in order. It's a much more arduous process than I had anticipated getting into this, but we're working through it. And also, I just wanted to mention, I had a discussion, because I think we're gonna try to use our website as much as we can as well. I had a conversation with Kevin, our person who hosts our website, about the village app, but I wanted to also let the council know that I asked him to put together some pricing to make essentially a site for the rec center, kind of build out the body of that, so we can have that all ready to go, and we can fill it in with content as we, as soon as we know the rates, we can post them up there. So it'd be nice to have a site ready to go here soon. So he said it wouldn't be more than $1,000 or $2,000, something like that, to get a site started for the rec center. So, but yeah, we'll hopefully have that here shortly. And that is it for now. Our next meeting will be the 5th of April, as of right now. Unless things change. And I still owe you what you need now.
Thank you, Mark. Long-term community development, no report. Parks and Rec.
Like the chief said, everything's on schedule for the Easter egg hunt Saturday, March 26th at 1 o'clock. And I just want to say that it is on schedule and running smooth, as it always does, because of Mark Wilson and Stacy. And I want to officially thank you guys for your work on that. And if you get your little invitation card in the mail and go, wow, this looks so much better this year, that's Stacy's work. Our next meeting's next Wednesday, the 16th in this room.
Thanks, Mark. Records
No report.
and Jed.
Jed met last Tuesday, here at the Village Hall. It was a pretty quick meeting, it was only for 10 minutes. A couple things that were discussed. February's revenue was roughly 40,000 less than it, I'll use the word should have been, because there was a $40,000 net profit refund that Rita had to give to one of the companies, so obviously that aided to what we got. And we had, if people remember some of our meetings last year, we had a couple items on the table for projects. We had property purchase, and then there were 2 road projects. Well, we had kind of had the understanding with them that we would do the property purchase, but then only one of the projects. And we all said that wasn't going to be a problem because there was no chance in hell that we would get grants for the 2 projects. Well, we got grants for the 2 projects, but talking with Rob, and I guess Rob and the mayor discussed this as well, that shouldn't be a problem. We should be able to move the second project into 2017, so we're still only going to do one of them in 16 and one in 17, because the grant, you have a certain amount of time
I thought
do
they
it.
said we'd probably do them both in 2017.
No.
They thought,
Well, by the time, yeah, there is a good chance that even the 16 will be in 17, but we won't have 2 in 16 like we had discussed. By the time you get the bidding done and all that, yeah, the 1/16 project might actually be done in 17, but, so there won't be 2 next year.
at the end of the day, it's good that
It's a good thing, right?
we got grant funding for both.
We got grant funding.
And that's because of Akron backing out.
Right.
They backed out of a whole bunch of stuff, I guess, so.
Okay.
So that's what was discussed. Our next meeting will be the first Tuesday of June at the Township Hall. And that's it.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, legislation. Resolution 13, 2016, a resolution to authorize a $100 donation to the Twinsburg After Prom Committee, 3rd reading. Resolution 14, 2016, a resolution authorizing a $100 donation to the Aurora After Prom Committee, 3rd reading. Resolution 17, 2016, a resolution in support of the application to the Ohio Department of Transportation related to preparation of the Safe Routes to School Travel Plan, which is a prerequisite for future financial assistance for active travel facility improvements funded through the Department of Transportation. 2nd reading, this will need to go by emergency tonight during the council meeting. Resolution 19, 2016, a resolution to hire Mark Latkovic as a probationary firefighter paramedic in the Reminderville Fire Department, 1st reading. Resolution 20, 2016, a resolution to accept the resignation of Rodney Wiggins from the Village of Reminderville Civil Service Commission and declaring an emergency, 1st reading. Resolution 21, 2016, a resolution to award the 2016 annual HVAC preventative maintenance contract to DeMarco and Associates LLC and declaring an emergency,
Mr.
1st
President?
reading. Yes.
This is gonna seem trivial, but I mentioned this last year, and this was an easy one, HVAC, heating, ventilation, air conditioning. I had mentioned that whenever legislation has an acronym in it, if the first time it's mentioned, it could be spelled out. Because sometimes they're not so obvious to me.
Oh, you mean the HVAC?
HVAC, like I said, this one was easy, but they're not always easy.
Okay.
LOL.
And that stands for?
All right. And that will be going by emergency. And Sam did go out and get some other quotes, and DeMarco is still our best
Okay,
price.
that was my question.
Resolution 22, 2016, a resolution confirming the appointment of Catherine Jacobs to the Village of Reminderville Civil Service Commission and declaring an emergency. First reading.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn to executive session to discuss personnel.
Second.
Roll call on adjournment.
Mr. Silverston?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Carla?
Yes.
Mr. Condit?
Yes.
Mr. Molina.
Yes.
Make a motion to reconvene from executive session at 7:52.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Carla?
Yes.
Mr. Condit?
Yes.
Mr. Molina.
Yes.
Mr. Silverston?
Yes.
Old business? Old business? New business? Any new business?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Roll call on adjournment.
Mr. Carla?
Yes.
Mr. Condit?
Yes.
Mr. Molina.
Yes.
Mr. Silverston?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Go right into the